What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Canadian Football Fantasy Fix for Week 16 of the 2021 CFL season. I'm Ryan Coop here with your second depth chart update of the week, discussing the depth charts for the two games happening Friday night between the Montreal Alouettes and the Ottawa Redblacks, and the BC Lions facing the Edmonton Elks, playing their second game this week. Of course, the Elks and the Argos played Tuesday night. Pretty low scoring offensive game. Weren't a ton of offensive totals to go around in that one. But if you took any Elks, you do have a second chance to pick up some more points in this game Friday night. Let's start off with the depth charts for Ottawa versus Montreal, and start with Ottawa first. I will have another depth chart update out later today, by the way, for the games on Saturday once those depth charts are out as well. So that one will probably be late afternoon, early evening. Might not be in time for the Friday night games. So make sure you get your lineups started at least. And you can also check out on Twitter at CooperTrooper42 is my handle there. I will tweet them out when they come out. Just might not have the chance to record the video till later on today. Anyways, back to Ottawa and Montreal. Let's start with Ottawa here. Caleb Evans gets the start at quarterback for the Red Blacks. Duck Hodges got the start last game. Didn't fare so well, so they're going back to Caleb Evans for another look here. Hodges is the backup. I would say I wouldn't be surprised once again if we see both of them play in this game. Maybe a half here, half there. I don't recommend taking either of them necessarily in CFL Fantasy this week. Timothy Flanders is the running back on the roster this week. He came back in after missing a couple games and had a really good game against the Argos last time out for Ottawa. Had, I think, 100 yards rushing. Didn't translate to a ton of fantasy points because he didn't get a touchdown or involved in the passing game, but good to see a good running game, at least from Timothy Flanders. Jordan Smallwood gets back in and starts at slot back for his first game since week number 3. He will take over the starting role from Anthony Coombs, who slides into a backup spot. And Wesley Lewis draws back into the lineup as a backup behind Nate Behar, a spot we've seen Daniel Peterman in a few times throughout the year. So they will line up as follows on offense. I mentioned Evans starts, Hodges the backup at quarterback, Timothy Flanders is the running back. At wide receiver, your starters are RJ Harris, Ryan Davis, Jordan Smallwood, Kenny Stafford, and Nate Behar. I mentioned Lewis as a backup, Anthony Coombs as a backup, and Devontae Dedmon is also a backup behind Ryan Davis. This is a spot we see him in typically, and he will be handling kick returns once again this week. And we'll see if he can put up touchdown number 6 for his career. Wouldn't that be something? If Devontae Dedmon could continue his already record-shattering pace going forward to close out the year. They do face the Montreal Alouettes in this game, who are fighting for a spot for a home playoff game. They need to win, and I think they need the Ticats to lose in order to claim that home playoff spot. So Montreal is starting pretty much all of their starters, with the notable absence of no Eugene Lewis this week. He is out of the lineup. I'm guessing due to injury. I would assume that's the case. So no Eugene Lewis. Had the big game against the Bombers last game. Is out of the lineup this week. Dante Absher will take his starting spot at receiver. Absher's kind of been that guy that slots in when they need somebody to fill in a starting role, and has gotten in as a backup a couple times this year. So he takes that spot at wide receiver. Trevor Harris starts at quarterback again this week. Shea Patterson's the backup, so Matt Schiltz still not ready to be back on the active roster. They're sticking with Trevor Harris here. He's performed, he's gotten a little bit better in the past couple of weeks, put a couple touchdowns on the board last game, and it seems like we'll see the injury situation come the playoff game, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see Trevor Harris starting in that East Division semifinal next week. At running back, William Stanback leads the way, of course. They've got a lot to play for in this game. Expect a heavy dose of him. Jeshron Antwi, the backup there at running back position. At receiver, Dante Absher, Reggie White Jr., Jake Weineke, Quan Bray, and Keon Julian Grant are your starters. Rashawn Simonai is a backup there. And at kick return, Martese Jackson is back handling returns for another consecutive week here for Montreal. Defensive side of the ball seems pretty consistent. Looks like the usual crew we see there for the Alouettes. Getting in the second game on Friday, we have BC and Edmonton. Let's touch on the Lions side of things here first. At quarterback, Nathan Rourke, Canadian Nathan Rourke, gets the start for the Lions at quarterback. Kevin Thompson is the backup. They are giving Michael Riley the break in the final game of the year here. Nothing to play for really for BC besides pride at this point, and so they're going to take a look at the young Canadian kid, Nathan Rourke, which I'm excited to see. We saw him play a little bit here and there earlier this season, and it looked promising. So I want to see a full game out of him. It seems like he will get the full game here, and could be not a bad fantasy play against an Elks defense that's playing their third game in 6 or 7 days. Quadri Henderson is listed as the kick returner for the Lions this week. I say listed, but note, BC tends to list guys as the return man and then just not use them in that role. He did take most of the kicks 2 weeks ago, but last week they listed Lucky Whitehead there, and I don't think he returned a single punt in that game. It was James Butler doing a lot of the return duties. So be cautious there. I don't think Henderson, he's not going to get involved in the offense really, so I don't think he's really worth the fantasy play much there either way. But just a note on that to be cautious of the fact that he's listed as the kick returner, but that's never a guarantee when it comes to the Lions. James Butler starts at running back again. Jamel Lyles the backup. I wonder if we see maybe them rotate Lyles in a little bit here and there, but I would expect most of the carries to go through Butler. At receiver, they're dressing a number of backup receivers this week. The starting crew is Lucky Whitehead, Brian Burnham, Javon Catoy, Dominic Rhymes, and Shaq Johnson, but I think there is potential for some of the backups to rotate in there as well. So maybe be a little bit cautious in terms of BC receivers there. I would expect the starting crew gets bulk of the touches in this one. I think maybe BC even gets to dress more starters or more players in this game because Edmonton does, given that it's their second game of the week. But I expect most of the starters to get the playing time is what I'm saying. There could be some reps taken by some of the backups on the roster as well. On the Edmonton side of things, Taylor Cornelius gets the start at quarterback once again in the final game, his third straight start. The Elks brought in Nick Arbuckle, but he will not play in 2021. They are going to wait till 2022, and I see both sides of that. I see arguments of why do you bring a guy in and not show him this year? But then also, do you want to throw him to the Wolves in 3 games in 7 days and you haven't had really a chance to learn the offense quite yet? I see both sides of it. I'm excited to see Taylor Cornelius start again. I'm a fan of him. I like what I've seen from him this season. Last game against the Argos, not great. Threw a couple interceptions in that one. I want to see how he bounces back here as he plays to make it a competition for next season. Dakota Prukop will be his backup. James Wilder Jr. is listed as the starter again at running back with Walter Fletcher the backup. I would imagine we see similar to what we saw last game on Tuesday, where both of them get involved in the offense a little here and there. I think it was mostly Wilder in the first half, mostly Fletcher in the second half. I could see a timed split between those two. Only change at receiver from last game is Darrell Walker is out this game. Ernest Edwards takes over the starting role after being a backup last time. And wide receiver Diego Villamontes comes into the lineup and is a backup behind Ernest Edwards. So they will line up with Armani Edwards, Ernest Edwards, Jalen Tolliver, Shai Ross, and Tavon Smith as their starters at receiver. Ernest Edwards also handling kick returns this week again as well for this game. Defensive side of the ball, pretty much the same. Most of the same starters we typically see there for them. On the defensive side of the ball. So those are your lineups for the Friday night games. Make sure you get them in. Make sure you get your fantasy lineup set in time before the first game kicks off, which is, I believe, 6:30 p.m. Central Time tonight between the Ottawa Red Blacks and Montreal Alouettes. So get those lineups locked in. Stay tuned later today as well for the depth chart updates for the other games on Saturday to help get you all set to finalize your lineups for the week. The final week of the 2021 regular season. Can you believe it? I believe that ends the regular season pool of the overall fantasy leaderboard, and it refreshes for the playoffs. So if you're behind, stay tuned. Next week, it's a fresh start, fresh chance to hit the leaderboard in the overall standings for the playoffs. So look forward to more content, of course, then, and another depth chart update out later today. Best of luck with tonight's games, both if your team's playing in it and for your fantasy teams. Do all the YouTube things, like, comment, subscribe, let me know what you liked, what you didn't. If you have any fantasy questions, put them in the comments section or tweet them at me at CooperTrooper42. Link to that's in the description. And if you want to play CFL Fantasy alongside myself and other viewers, there's a link in the description to the Canadian Football Fantasy Fix group over on the official CFL Fantasy site, where you can play alongside other viewers this week and throughout the playoffs as well. As always, thanks for watching. Take care. Have a good one. Bye.